Thank you, Pastor Scudder, and thank you for being here today and for all that you do. I was born some time ago, 48 years ago, in the city of Jerusalem. So for me, Jerusalem is not just a dream. It's not just a concept of a divine city. It is my home. It is my hometown. It was where I was born. It was where my parents were born, 1 year before the State of Israel was established. It is where my ancestors were longing for 2,000 years. So listening to this amazing choir of yours singing about Jerusalem, about my home, really brought tears to my eyes. So thank you so much for doing that. Thank you. And before I start, I want to ask you a question. Do you love Israel?
Yes.
Do you love Israel?
Yes.
Do you love America?
Yes.
If you love Israel, you love America, right?
Yes.
And if you love America, you love Israel, right?
Yes.
Right? Because we're sister nations. We believe we were founded on the same values of freedom, democracy, and liberty. That's what makes America the great country that it is. And that's what makes Israel the great country that it is. So thank you for supporting us today and always. As Pastor Scott mentioned yesterday, 4 more young Israeli women were released from the brutal Hamas captivity in Gaza after 15 months. Liri, Naama, Daniela, and Karina finally came back home after 15 months. And it finally happened. It didn't just happen in vain. It happened because so many people around this country, across this country, including you, were raising awareness. We're praying for their release. We're calling for the American administration to push harder to make sure they're being released. And today I'm very, very grateful for President Trump for doing so much and being so strong in his message about the need to release the hostages and about the ongoing messages that he will not rest until all remaining 90 hostages are being brought back home. Some of them, unfortunately, have perished in captivity in the underground Hamas tunnels in the Gaza Strip, but so many of them are still alive. And both those alive and those who have unfortunately perished need to come back home. We need to bring them back home, and I know that it's going to happen over the next weeks, but we need to continue to pray and continue to advocate for that, because we're not dealing with a normal partner. It's a cruel and savage terrorist organization who hold these hostages and will do whatever they can to break the deal. So we need to be very strong and firm about that. You know, there are Israelis, there are women, children, Americans, members of other nationalities. And it is our moral commitment, it is our national commitment to bring them back home. And I hope it will happen very, very soon. For us, October 7th, 2023, was not just another terrorist attack. Unfortunately, Israel and Israelis and Jews have suffered terrorism since the State of Israel was established. But October 7th was something else. It was the biggest slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust. As my dear friend Alison just mentioned, tomorrow we're going all around the world to commemorate the Holocaust, International Holocaust Remembrance Day. For many of us in Israel, the Holocaust is not just a historical memory. It is a very personal story. For me, it's also a personal story. It is a family story. Savta Sarah, as we call her, the grandmother of my wife Ayelet Sarah, was born in Hungary and was taken to Auschwitz by the Nazis when she was 17. She was lucky, if I can call it lucky, not to be exterminated, but she was destined to take care of all the belongings of the Jews who arrived to Auschwitz and then sent immediately to the gas chambers. She was there for many months, suffering the most horrible things that one can imagine. She was watching her sister, after a few months in Auschwitz, she was watching her sister arriving to Auschwitz, getting off the train and being taken to the gas chambers. She was calling her from the other side of the fence, trying to just say her name, but she didn't hear her. And she was there watching how she was marched, her sister marched to the gas chambers and being killed. So for us, the Holocaust is a very personal thing. And for us, the commitment of never again is not just a national commitment. It is a very personal commitment. It is a family commitment. My kids are the fourth generation of Jews who live independently in the state of Israel. It is my personal commitment to guarantee that never again is never again. And then came October 7th. They killed 1,200 people in Israel. They wounded thousands of them and took hostage 250 people, Israelis and non-Israelis. But they meant to do much more. And the hope of Hamas that following October 7th, more members of the axis of evil in the Middle East, Iran, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen would join, and they did. Hezbollah attacked us from the north. Iran attacked us twice with what became to be the biggest ballistic attack, the biggest launch of missiles in the history of war, twice towards Israel. The Houthis from Yemen are launching missiles towards Israel. And I would have to say thanks for the might of the Israeli army. Thanks for the Israeli technology. Thanks for the partnership, the strategic alliance with the United States. And thanks for the divine intervention. The damage, thank God, could have been much worse. Could have been much worse. After 15 months, we're in a stage where Hezbollah was completely defeated. Hamas is now agreeing to release the hostages after refusing to do so for 15 months. Iran was struck both by Israel and the United States. And the Middle East might be on the verge of a big change. But I want to share with you one of my biggest concerns. Because while we were fighting in the Middle East to defeat the terrorists and the members of the axis of evil, I have seen another front growing, not in our region, but in the West, in Europe, and in the United States. Our enemies in the Middle East try to demolish the Jewish state, the state of Israel, by military means, by terrorism. Unfortunately, some of their supporters try to do the same here in the United States and in Europe, using propaganda, hate, and diplomatic tools to demolish the one and only Jewish state. We have seen an unprecedented rise of anti-Israeli sentiment and anti-Jewish sentiment, anti-Semitism, rising in the United States, in Europe, on university campuses, where Jewish students and pro-Israel students were harassed, attacked, excluded, on social media, in the streets, including here in the streets of Chicago, where Jews had to hide their Jewish symbols, their Star of David or their kippah, just like the one I'm wearing, because being visibly Jew means today, unfortunately, that you expose yourself, you might expose yourself to harassment and even to violent attacks. And this is something we cannot agree. This is something we cannot accept. And this is something we should all object in any mean we can, in any way we can. And thank you, Pastor Scudder, for leading the fight against anti-Semitism, against Jew hatred here in our communities, in Chicago and across America. You know, in the first few days after October 7th, I gave a lot of interviews on the radio, on TV, newspapers. And what I was saying back then, many people did not like to hear. But I have to say, later on, it became a visible truth. What I told them back then is that it's not about Israel. It's really not just about Israel. It is much bigger than that. It is about America. It is about the values that we represent. They object our values of freedom, of democracy, of liberty. They're coming now after the state of Israel, after the Jewish people. But later, they will come after America. You know, in the weeks after October 7th, we, Israelis, Jews, friends of the Jews, allies of the Jews, all across America, we hanged posters, pictures of the hostages, women, children, the elderly Holocaust survivors who were abducted to Gaza. These people were tearing these posters down. They couldn't look in the eyes of the hostages. A few weeks later, they started to tear down American flags. Because if they hate Israel, they hate America. Because they hate the values that we represent. The values of freedom and democracy and liberty. We have to say it over and over again. This is why I asked you in the beginning, if you love Israel, you love America. If you love America, you love Israel. They claim that Israel is a colonial state. That Israel is a colonial project of the West. That Israel is an apartheid state. And this is, you know what, when they say Israel is an apartheid state, for me this is the most funny, things to say, because how ignorant can you be to call Israel an apartheid state? My grandparents arrived to Israel before it was established. They arrived as teenagers for their love to Zion. They arrived from Arab countries in the Middle East, from Egypt, from Yemen, from Iraq. More than 50% of the Jews in Israel are descendants of, Jews and communities in the Middle East, in North Africa, in Africa. Jews in Israel are black, brown, and white. This is the most diverse nation in the world. How can you even claim that Israel is a colonial project or an apartheid state? This is pure ignorance. And you know how we fight ignorance? By stating the facts. And this is what we have to do all over. When you engage in a conversation with a friend who just doesn't know. When you engage in a conversation maybe on social media. Just state the facts. The answer for ignorance are the pure facts. You probably know, I know Pastor Scudder has visited Israel after October 7th. I don't know if any of you had the chance to do that, but the past 15 months have been very, very, very tough on us. For every Jew, for every Israeli, for every lover of Israel, whether you're Jewish or Christian, it was a very tough time, and it still is. But I've always remained optimistic. You know why? Because while they celebrate death, destruction, and despair, we celebrate peace, resilience, and hope. And hope always wins. And just look at their demonstrations against Israel versus our gatherings of hope. Look at the people. Look at the messages. Listen to the messages. Hope will always win. And I remain very optimistic on this day because we're seeing our hostages coming home. It's going to take weeks and months, but we will not rest until the last one of the remaining 19 hostages are coming back home. We will work together with the American administration and together with our partners in the Middle East, because we have many partners in the Middle East. Many Arab countries are close partners now, because the Middle East is no longer about the Jews versus the Arabs. It's not the case anymore. It's about those who believe in hope versus those who believe in despair, those who believe in being moderate versus those who believe in being extremists. And I know that hope and moderacy will prevail. So we work together with the American administration and our partners in the Middle East to build a better future for Gaza after the hostages are being released. Gaza, you know, they say free Gaza. I say yes, free Gaza. Free Gaza from Hamas, free Gaza from hate. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to build a new Gaza that would live side by side with Israel, free from hate, free from anti-Semitism, and hopefully one day we'll be able to have peace with our neighbors. And I know that President Trump is very, very determined, after all the hostages are back home, to enhance the circle of peace in the Middle East. You know, just 4 years ago he brought the Abraham Accords, right? We're all descendants of Abraham. He brought the Abraham Accords, which brought peace between Israel, the United Arab Emirates, Morocco, Bahrain. And now he wants to bring the most important Arab and Muslim country, that's Saudi Arabia, to the circle of peace with Israel. And I know he'll be able to do that because he believes in this mission. And I hope that by the time next time we meet here to celebrate Israel, we'll be able to discuss our new horizons for peace in the Middle East, and I know it will happen. And there's also good news. Pastor Scudder, you mentioned the mission to Israel that you're putting together, and there's great news because American airlines are renewing their direct flights to Israel. Delta announced that they're resuming their direct flights to Israel. We work very closely with United Airlines, and I can tell you, very soon they'll announce that they resume their direct flights to Israel. It's going to be cheaper to fly to Israel. It's going to be shorter to fly to Israel. And you know what? Israelis are waiting with open arms to welcome you in the Holy Land. So I encourage you to go to Israel, go visit the holy sites in Israel. Try the best food in the world. That's in Israel, not in America. I'm sorry. And show solidarity to Israelis. If there's one thing Israelis need to know today, is that they're not alone. I'm here and I see you and I know that we're not alone, but they need to see that too. Go to Israel, tell them you're not alone, hug them, embrace them. This is the only thing they need right now. We are facing a long process of recovery, a long process of reconstruction. It's going to take years. First, the physical reconstruction of all our communities that have been destructed, but also the mental healing that is going to be long. But my people are strong They're resilient. And I know we can make it, and I know we can make it because we have good friends and allies just like you. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your alliance. Thank you for standing with Israel. And Pastor Scudder, thank you for your leadership. You have been an amazing ally of the people of Israel, of the Jewish people, of the state of Israel. Your leadership is amazing here in Chicago and all across the country. Thank you for not just standing with Israel here, but standing with Israelis in Jerusalem and all across the country. Thank you for everything that you do. May God bless you. May God bless America. May God bless Israel. Am Yisrael Chai. Thank you.